Good afternoon and welcome to Today on BayTV. We are live in Swansea on Thursday the 8th of June 2017. I'm Henry Darby-Cook, next to me is Liz Cairns. And
we've been joined by Keith Millward and Mike Evans.
So obviously part one we usually do on this day,
yeah.
But because it's such an important day, it's obviously election day, we've kind of thought, well, we'll just say, go and vote if you can vote.
Definitely.
And that's all we're going to say, and let's talk to Mike and Keith.
Lovely.
It's up to us.
Brilliant.
So, Keith, would you like to introduce Mike a bit more?
Mike Evans, manager of Ryan, the late Ryan Davis, and also manager of me at one time. And my manager when I used to work in careers used to say it was like juggling custard trying to manage me. So I don't know if you agree, but we're here to talk about Ryan today, aren't we?
Yeah, the 40th anniversary of his death was last month. Sorry, April the 22nd. And obviously there were a lot of, I won't say celebrations, but people looking back on his work. I actually go around giving a lot of talks on Ryan and using a lot of recordings that I've done and managed to unearth over the years. And the further we get away from his death back in 77, the more people are appreciating how versatile the man was.
Yes.
Yeah,
and actually quite unique.
Yeah, I've known him from, we were speaking earlier, because obviously speaking Welsh and that, I used to watch him doing the Welsh side of it, but also playing the harp and things, and I don't know if people know of that or they just think of him as the comedy side.
Multi-talented.
But he is definitely so talented.
He was one of the best personalities to come out of Wales in entertainment, arguably the very best.
Certainly the most versatile, one can argue, is down to personal taste, isn't it? Actually, going back to the versatility, I was putting this album together a few years ago, and the word versatility kept coming up, and I thought, well, let's apply it more to Ryan and break it down. And I was actually quite staggered at the list. If I had one of the attributes, I'd be quite happy. But the full list totals 30.
Wow.
It's an incredible list. First of all, importantly, he could be funny in English and Welsh. One doesn't follow the other, but Ryan was, you see. So to have 30 aspects, he was quite a fascinating character. Yeah. And the further we get away from that, more people are appreciating that,
Yes. Well, singer, songwriter, as well as amazing comedian. We've got some footage as well to show, to remind us how wonderful he was.
Should we remind ourselves of it?
Yes, please.
Here it is.
Amazing.
Everybody trying to see it, it's so funny.
I know.
That was actually recorded in Birmingham. BBC Wales didn't have television studios then, so anything that was done for Wales was done actually in Birmingham, or certainly on the Light End side. And there's a lovely story about that. In the afternoon, Ryan rehearsed with the Richard Williams Gentlemen Songsters and just did it straight, not telling them that he's going to come out as this inebriated Cossack in the evening, And it was very, very funny. The reaction on Richard Williams' face, he just couldn't keep straight, Lovely time. Many, many happy memories.
Well, he was synonymous with pantomime in the Grand Theatre as well. He did several pantomimes there, and I saw them all when I was a boy. And I've never known the Grand Theatre with the atmosphere that was there when Ryan was there, because it was such a warm atmosphere, a very special, homely entertainment, and everybody laughing so much, really laughing, the whole theatre rocking with laughter.
Well, the pantomime's there. First of all, the Grand then was in private ownership, and was actually having quite a rocky financial background before the council stepped in. So actually, when they started doing the pantomimes, Ryan and Ronnie did 3 pantomimes there. They started on Boxing Day and went on till the end of March. So they were the longest running pantomimes in the whole of the UK, even longer than the London Palladium. So that was quite an accolade. Bear in mind they'd never done it before.
Yes.
But then it really financially helped the Grand Theatre through the rest of the year then.
And I guess it probably made the Grand Theatre what we know and love about it today.
Yes. It's and as Liz was saying, first of all, in Welsh language, Ryan and Ronnie, of course,
yes,
and then they had their own English-speaking programme on the Wales channel, and we remember a wonderful comedy sketch called Our House, and Ryan was there as the mam with the bread, and he was saying, "And don't tell Will on your father."
Sadly, none of that is left, because in those days, videotape was so expensive, they had to make a decision of what programmes to keep, and unfortunately, they wiped all those to reuse them again.
Wow.
Which is a great tragedy.
It is. I guess we never think about kind of archiving now because everything's on demand and digital and kind of in the cloud, if you will. But obviously,
actually, I raised the point because of his talents. Obviously, he was pre-S4C. Well, imagine what would happen if he was still alive and S4C came along.
Yeah.
Well, he would have been doing everything.
That was the saddest thing because
all the technology,
his early passing as well, because he was just 40
years of age.
40 years of age.
He looked about 10 years older, but he's only 40. Yeah.
Wow.
Yes.
Because sudden, wasn't it, through asthma attack as well.
Yeah. Very sad.
But strong links with Swansea, obviously through the Grand Theatre. I'm a Mumbles boy, and he came to live in Mumbles and lived there till his death. Yes, very, very, very sad. But to me, it's like I'm going around giving these talks, and somebody said to me recently, "Why don't we try and memorialise his memory within Swansea?"
Yeah.
And that actually got me thinking. So. Yes, we could be doing something on those lines.
Yeah.
Oh, wow, that's great. So, you know, when you go on these talks, do you ever hear stories that you've never heard before about?
Always somebody new coming up with a story. Another interesting fact about Ryan, and this was illuminated by this woman that came to see me, came up after one talk. Ryan was in a long-running series called Vorve in Welsh.
Yeah.
Now, quite a number of people could not understand the language, but still watched the programme because he was so animated.
Right,
This woman came up to me recently. She said, "Oh, my mother used to watch Vorve." I said, "Oh, lovely." Yeah, she was Scottish and deaf.
Oh, wow.
And I thought, well, that said a lot. You know,
Yes.
she was sitting there watching this programme, and that's the mimicry. Ryan used to love Charlie Chaplin, and that obviously was coming across on the screen. I think he did a lot to help the language, actually.
Yeah.
Because BBC Wales was bilingual, it was all on that channel. So a lot of people used to watch it, even if they didn't speak Welsh.
Yeah, that's true. And I didn't even realise until this morning when I was speaking to you as well that I've had the pleasure to be working with his son.
Right, that's right.
I know, yes.
Aaron on Publicum,
yes. That's right, yeah. So,
Oh, that's amazing.
I know. I didn't realise until we were speaking about it and that.
Yeah.
So it's nice to see that his legacy is following as well.
It is, yes.
Yeah.
So, obviously, all the talks you do and people wanting to remember Ryan, how can they kind of, get these CDs and get involved, I guess, and see you talk?
Well, actually, if they want to make contact with me, the company, Black Mountain Records, we started together, and I kept it going after Ryan's death, and built up the largest Welsh archive of choirs. I specialise in choirs. That's how I came to manage Keith when we toured America. I formed a choir, and we toured America greatly. That's another story.
For another day.
That's another days.
Wonderful times, incredible times.
So actually, Black Mountain Records, if you go on there, my email address is there. And anybody who's interested, who's got a group and would like me to come and give a talk, I'd be very happy to come and talk. I can talk for hours on the subject.
What can people expect? What's kind of content on the CDs?
On the CDs, they're live. And that's another point, actually. Some people unfortunately never saw him live. He really came into his own if you've had the opportunity to see him live, be it in pantomime or in cabaret. This album, Ryan at the Rank, the top rank in Swansea, which is sadly being knocked down at the moment, that still sells to this day. It's one of the top 5 selling CDs in Wales.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's amazing.
Definitely.
40 years on.
It's great.
So interesting, so interesting. Well, thank you both for joining us.
Pleasure.
Keith, obviously we're going to be keeping you here with us today.
Yes. Next, we're going to be looking at today's papers with Keith and Rebecca Wedlake will be joining us.
Yeah, and we're going to be talking arthritis as well. So stay with us on BayTV.
See you then. Welcome back to Today on BayTV. I'm Liz Cairns, and with me is Henry Darby Cook. Keith Millward is still with us, and Rebecca Wedlake has joined us.
Before we talk to Rebecca about arthritis, we're going to have a look at today's papers. It's a little bit different today because, again...
Everything's dominated at the moment, with obviously with the election today.
Yeah.
So we're just briefly going to cover the ones that's on the front pages of the Western Mail. Yes. Western Mail, they have named all of the victims. It's Alexandra Paigiad, 27, Sarah Zelenak, 39, Ignacio Echeverria, 39, Christine Archibald, 30, Sebastian Belanga, 36, James McMullen, 32, Kirsty Bowden, 28, and Xavier Thomas, 45. And the main thing now that everybody is asking is how actually the terrorists slipped through the net. Mm-hmm. And that's something that'll probably be coming out throughout the weeks.
Yeah.
And got to give out commemorations, obviously.
Of course.
Yeah, all the ones now that have been named. In the Evening Post, it's a story which has been going on for 5 years.
Yeah, I've heard about this.
Yes, it is. They've said hunting a chopper. Now, it's not a chopper that's in the air. It's somebody has been going round and cutting down the trees. At the minute, it's been 20 trees, and now 20 also have been damaged. It's on, it's saying it's across like the Mumbles area.
Right, okay, yeah.
And at the minute, they want to try and find out who it is. Normally, it's between February and March it happens, so they're all a bit surprised at the minute because it's obviously happened in June. So hopefully we shall find out soon. Yeah. Keith, have you seen this story?
No, I hadn't known anything about it. And it brings to mind, I was in Singleton Park yesterday. I was looking at the trees and looking at how magnificent they are. And I realised how much I do love to see the trees. But to hear this, it seems quite ludicrous.
I know.
Am I right? It's as you're driving into Mumbles, there's obviously... on the grass on the left side where the sea is, there's trees, which I guess are blocking people's views.
Well, what they're saying is it shouldn't really be blocking anything, and this is what they don't understand, why this person is doing it.
Right, okay.
And there's no actual reason for it.
This year, or has it just happened because normally 50 happens in March?
For the last 5 years it's happened,
yes. Yeah, 20 trees they've done it to at the minute. But they don't know, it could be one person, they don't even know who it is whatsoever. For 5 years they've been trying to trace whoever it is. But
what a strange crime.
Yeah. And locals, like they said, it's them that are being affected by, isn't it? Mm-hmm. And they said nobody can understand why. That's the mystery of it.
Well, someone local to that area is Bonnie Tyler. Happy birthday today, Bonnie.
Happy birthday.
Many happy returns.
Definitely.
So, Rebecca, let's talk arthritis.
Arthritis. So what we're going to be doing today is just chatting about. It's a huge subject, and I could chat for an hour, but nobody's going to want that. So we've got to try and keep it as succinct as we can. But it's something that in a year will affect about 10 million people, and about 8 million of them are going to be affected by osteoarthritis. So I thought it might be a good thing to come in and have a chat about and how osteopathy can help. Really,
it's one of those things. I think we're all affected by it because I think we all probably know someone who's dealing with it at the moment.
And you know what? That would be the underlying message of what I've come in about, really, because a lot of people think, I'm going to get it, I'm going to end up with it anyway. And if you've sort of seen someone that has been really badly affected by it, that can affect your perception of it and how you feel it's going to affect you. I mean, 80 to 90% of over the age of 65 will experience arthritis. Like an osteoarthritis, which is more your kind of mechanical, your wear and tear. But there's things that can be done because obviously in the older population, they can get quite lonely, they can get quite depressed about it. You can think, is it going to affect my ability to do things? Am I going to end up crippled or something? And that's actually not the case with osteopathy. What we want to do is help empower you, put you in the direction of the charities and the information services that can help you, but help with the symptoms and the daily management of it as well.
What are these symptoms that people should look out for?
It's a really common condition. So you're going to have pain, you're going to have swelling, joint tenderness, because what happens is it's changes in the actual joints themselves. The cartilage can thin. You can have bony changes, so people will have stiffness. So if you've got things like an osteoarthritis, what you might find is you wake up in the morning and patients will say to me, it takes me about 20 minutes to get out of bed. I almost have to thaw out. And it's because of that stiffness from staying still too long. You've got different kinds of arthritis. You've got your reactive arthritis, ankylospondylosis, your gout, ones that affect children, your rheumatoid arthritis. you know, there's so many there's 200 different conditions that we could actually talk about.
Wow.
But, you know, it's 8 million will have the OA. So that's the one that we're kind of focusing in on today about that.
What are the things we can do to prevent?
That's what I was going to ask next.
The thing is, it's like people ask, am I going to get it? Now, a lot of people will get wear and tear, which it's natural changes over time, especially depending on your work. If you do something very physically active and repetitive, it does put extra pressure on your joints, but there's a genetic component to it as well. You know, there's lifestyle components, but for some people, it's just pure chance. So, you know, if you know that you're doing repetitive kind of actions, it's about taking those breaks. It's about knowing if you've had prior trauma, because some people might say to me, oh, you know, I had a really bad fall 10 years ago and now I've got arthritis all in my neck. It's about trying to get it as soon as we can to sort of help your range of motion, stop it limiting further, helping with the pain.
Is it through exercise that can...
It can, yeah, do you know what's great? It can be through things like diet, it can be through exercise, it can be through lifestyle modification. So you may want to stop doing certain activities, but also keep doing other things. I advise my patients to swim.
Right.
You know, because that can be so beneficial for many different reasons. It's also about giving people hope as well, because you can feel, if you've had a grandmother that's, you know, been crippled by it, so they say, that can leave you feeling very lonely and in a lot of despair. And if you love your gardening and you think, oh, I can't garden now because I've got arthritis in my knees, it could be really demoralising. So it's about empowering and helping self-management through things like, you know, exercises, rehabilitation advice. I'll do manipulations if necessary. I'll do, you know, stretching joints, all sorts of different exercises. It's about empowering people.
I read more and more about supplements that can help prevent, but also that can help ease arthritis.
There are lots of different supplements, and if your osteopath has been trained in the dietary and the nutrition side of it, they will give you advice around certain things. You'll hear things about chondroitin, about things like your omega-3, your fish oils. So we'll give you dietary advice around that. We might talk about certain foods are anti-inflammatory, so they might say, oh, keep away from, you know, certain sugars, certain fats, things that might aggravate your symptoms. Some people might come in and say to me, oh, you know, I drink a can of pop and my joints ache now. So it's about looking at the refined sugars and things. So
I take cod liver oil every day. I take that, you know, that's, and I have done for many years. It's not a big light because I realise some people have real severe problems with it. But I have had some aches, and I find that if I do take cod liver oil, it seems to alleviate any...
Yeah, that's wonderful. And I mean, if anybody wants more information, because it's such a huge subject,
of course,
don't hesitate to get in touch with me at Trillium Osteopathy, because I can put people in touch with, you know, Arthritis Research UK. The Institute of Osteopathy has a wonderful section all about things that you can do to help yourself and what osteopaths can do.
So if someone's feeling a little niggle and then it's more than something they've had before and they think it might be the onset of it, what's the next step to take?
They can either go straight to their GP or they can come and see an osteopath, because we're primary healthcare practitioners, so we can see you, we can go through the full examination and then take it from there and really work together with a unique treatment plan.
So what can someone expect from that first session with you?
They're going to come in, we're going to have a sit down, talk about your previous history, talk about your lifestyle, any previous traumas, any surgeries. So I get a sort of a bigger picture to look if there's any components that are genetic, that are lifestyle, that are related to your work. And then we'll do the examination. So if, you know, if you've got a bad knee, I'll be looking to see and test that area. If it's your hip, we'll do proper testing at the appropriate area and then look to start treatment. And it's very unique. It's a template for you, not some kind of broad thing, because everybody's different.
Of course.
And would you say it's a slow process, not for people to think, right, as soon as I come and see you now, I'm going to have like this miracle cure?
Do you know what? I'm so glad you asked that, because osteopathy cannot reverse the effects of arthritis because it's bony changes, but we can help manage the symptoms, keep your range of motion, and hopefully stop things getting worse. And I always tell my patients that, because you don't want to give false hope, but there is hope. You don't have to think to yourself, oh my God, I've just got to suffer with it.
And I guess the key thing from it is the understanding of living with it and dealing with it. And leading a normal life.
Yeah, and that's where the depression can come in, because people can think, oh my God, you know, I've just got to suffer. You haven't.
It's a matter of adapting, I suppose, isn't it?
Definitely.
Yeah.
So for everyone out there, how can they get in contact with you?
You can find me through Facebook at Trillium Osteopathy. My number's 07935 225 458, or Trillium Osteopathy online.
That's brilliant.
That's
Thank
great.
you.
Oh,
Thank you
thank you
both.
Thank you.
Next, Keith's staying with us. He's staying with us all day. I'm not letting him go.
Can't get rid of me.
And we're inviting Terry Sylvester. No, it's not Terry, is it?
Paul.
It's Paul.
Yes.
To the sofa. We'll see you in a minute on BayTV.
See you then.
Welcome back to Today on BayTV. I'm Henry Darby Cook. Next to me is Liz Cairns. Keith's still here. I'm not letting him go. And Paul Doubler has joined us.
Well, Paul, tell us why you're here with us today.
I'd like to talk to you about the motor ship Balmoral. She is a classic traditional coastal steamer. Great heritage and great affinity with the Bristol Channel, the great days of the pleasure steamers on the Bristol Channel. Particularly, a lot of people will remember the old paddle steamers. Balmoral is not a paddle steamer, she's a twin-screw motor ship. But there is a real special affinity with Swansea, and lots of people, I'm sure, will be familiar with sailing from Swansea over to Ilfracombe and then usually on to Lundy Island. And it's a fact that I've met many people in Ilfracombe that went over from Swansea and married over there into a sort of a Devon or a Cornish girl or bloke.
Wow.
So there's a cross, and I'd really be interested to hear from anybody that has got those links. But no, it's been a great part of the summer heritage and history of South Wales, and Balmoral is probably the last of the coastal steamers that carries on calling from place to place.
I remember going for trips when I was a boy, and I don't know whether I was more excited about going on the Balmoral or Christmas. I put it on a car because I could not sleep the night before. I was thinking, I'm going to be on this boat tomorrow, you know. It's something very special, isn't it, to be on board that ship?
It is. She was built in 1949, so she's coming up to her 68th birthday in a couple of days, actually, in June. But she costs a huge amount of money to maintain and to run. You can imagine what it's like with your car. When your car gets a little bit old, you dread going into the MOT to have a checkup. Well, the health and safety and the rules and regulations with a ship that can carry over 600 people are phenomenal. And the costs involved with keeping her up to date and keeping everything safe and secure is amazing. And the only reason we keep going is by the fact of all our volunteers and fundraisers. And we had a grant of over £350,000 2 years ago from the Coastal Communities Fund to help us boost the ship and to keep it going. Because, of course, when we bring a lot of people into a harbour or to a pier, it does boost the local economy. And very often we have 200 or 300 people coming over from Swansea over to Ilfracombe, and it's a great day out. But we also sail from Penarth, from Porthcawl. We're doing a trip from Britain Ferry later on and this will be the third year that we've attempted to sail from Britain Ferry.
The locals are very excited about that, aren't they?
Indeed.
Yes.
But the weather's always against us, the great British weather. So hopefully this year will be third time running.
You've got a very exciting event in Milford Haven coming up.
Yes, the week after next we're doing 3 special voyages. The first time in over 40 years that the ship has been to Milford Haven, and I think any large passenger carrying ship. And on the Tuesday, the week after next, we're doing a cruise from Milford up the River Cleddau, which is a first. I don't think anybody's ever gone up the Cleddau. And on the Wednesday, we've got special naturalists on board, and we're doing a trip around Skomer, Sockholm and Grassholm Islands. And people can see...
I've done that trip
the wonderful...
see the puffins.
Yes.
Oh, wow.
But normally you've got to go on a small boat, and for older people or people infirm, it's very difficult to get into a launch. But with Balmoral, they can come on board and sit in an armchair and have wonderful views.
See hundreds of them, don't you? You know, yes, it's not as if you go hunting for them. You know, it's really
wildlife in West Wales and Skomer is phenomenal. It really is. And then on the Thursday, a very special, unique occasion, we're going from Milford to Lundy Island, giving people 4 hours ashore on the magical island of Lundy before coming back. So that's something really special that we're looking forward to.
So Are you already doing voyages now, or when does it start and when does it end?
We started last week, and we did a voyage last Wednesday from Swansea, which was amazingly successful. People have to park in the park and ride,
right,
and then they're taken by buses to the old ferry port, the Swansea Cork ferry port. So that's where we go from.
Okay.
And we went over to Ilfracombe and Lundy, and it was a glorious day. And I think we had about 250 people, and it was smashing.
Wow.
We come back to Swansea, the Bristol Channel, 25th of July for something like 5 or 6 weeks. So there are numerous opportunities for your viewers to come on board.
You fancy going, don't you, Henry?
Yeah, definitely.
I used to go to Ilfracombe a lot as a child, and it's the beaches through the tunnels. I can just how amazing it is. And Damien Hirst has recently added a statue to the one port, so it's definitely worth a day out. So does it leave Swansea at what time?
It leaves. It depends on the tides, because obviously we're amazingly dependent on tides with the Bristol Channel. But normally about 9:30 from Swansea. It takes about 2.5 hours to get to Ilfracombe. So then you've got the choice of either having 4 or 5 hours in Ilfracombe, and people have been known to have liquid refreshment and imbibe themselves in Ilfracombe, and there's nice restaurants as well as the pubs. Or you could stay on board and go out to Lundy for about 2 or 3 hours on Lundy, which is magical, which is really magical.
And then obviously back to Swansea.
And then back to Swansea. And the trip from Britain Ferry, which is in late July, is doing Britain Ferry, Porthcawl, over to Ilfracombe and Lundy. So that's something special as well.
About refreshments on board?
There's a marvellous, we've got the Britannia Lounge, which is an Art Deco, beautiful lounge and bar. And we've got a 70-seater restaurant as well, which does fish and chips. Breakfast in the morning, lunches, afternoon teas. And it's a big, for your viewers that don't know the ship, we've got a crew of 19. She can carry over 600 people.
Wow.
And she's got all...
I think we've got a little clip. Should we have a little look? I think
fantastic. Yes,
here it is.
Ship shape, but it's been a long journey to get this far. In her heyday, the Balmoral, along with her sister ship, the Waverley, ruled the waves of the Bristol Channel, ferrying day trippers from Wales to Weston and even down the coast to Ilfracombe.
You get on this ship and everything else is forgotten.
How many of these trips do you make?
Oh, almost every day this season.
But more recently, she's hit troubled waters, a recession and a bad summer in 2012.
The owners at that time decided that she was no longer viable. So she was effectively handed over to a group of enthusiasts in Bristol Inner Harbour, and it was said, right, there we are, your ship, see what you can do with it.
First, she headed for the dry dock in Sharpness for an MOT. The outcome would determine her future. She sailed through though, but only after £300,000 was raised by the public to fund repairs. And thanks to almost 60 volunteers, everything's been checked, restored and repainted.
That's obviously Bristol, isn't it? Yes.
So if people wanted a book, how would they go about it?
They can go to our website, which is www.whitefunnel.co.uk, and everything is there, all the details of the trips and the cruises. And we really do hope people will come along and enjoy the experience. It's part of Britain's heritage. It's part of our Welsh heritage.
Yeah, exactly.
And there's no finer way of seeing the coast, our wonderful coastline and the scenery that we've got.
Seeing Swansea from the sea, which is lovely, isn't it? It's lovely.
Do you know, many years ago, I used to sail from the Mumbles Pier, and we would love it. It would be fantastic if, I don't know what the situation is with Mumbles Pier, but if that was back, that it was able that we could call into Mumbles, we used to pick up lots and lots of people there, as well as Swansea itself.
We're always lucky to have it because you travelled around the country. You get Scotland, but remind us when it's going to be local again.
Right, she's going next week down to the south coast. Then the week after she'll be on Milford Haven. Then after that we do North Wales, big session on North Wales, the Northwest, Liverpool, the Isle of Man, Scotland, but back to the Bristol Channel for our main summer season, the 25th of July.
Brilliant. I know.
There's about 5 weeks of July and August and very early September that you can come on board.
Warmest months as well.
Yeah, and go online to book.
Go online to book, and please,
Brilliant.
and that's the best way of ensuring that Balmoral stays, is by lots and lots of people coming on board, because we are a charity. She's owned by a charity. I'm a volunteer. Everybody that runs her is a volunteer, except the paid professional crew,
That's
of course.
Brilliant. Thank you so much.
Thank
Not
you.
at all. Thank you.
After the break, Diane Hinds will be joining us, and we're not letting Keith go anywhere. We'll see you in a minute.
Welcome back to your final part of Today on BayTV. I'm Liz Cairns and this is Henry Darby Cook. And we are still here with Keith Blood and Diane Hinds.
Thank you.
we got the pronunciation right, didn't we?
I love the Welsh pronunciation, so we're very happy with that. Thank you.
So, Swansea Library tonight, tell us what you're doing.
5:45, I'm delivering a talk called How to Promote Your Book. It's part of my mission to help empower independent writers and to prove to them that they can achieve what their traditionally published counterparts have. And that's third-party validation, literary critiques through traditional media and beyond.
I think this is so important in Swansea. You'll back me up here, Keith. Obviously, with Dylan Thomas, we have so many amazing poets that want to, have their work published, but I think they, I think they don't know how to do it.
Exactly. A lot of independent writers don't. And when I've asked at my talks the timescale between completing the book and then putting it online to sell through a book site online, I've had, same day, I've had 4 days, 2 weeks. And I say, well, how do you think you can put a campaign together to maximise the awareness of it? And I get blank faces looking at me. And I've met a lot of independent writers over the years through my clients who are writers. I've organised talks through the libraries. And I suddenly thought, they're not catered for. And with a little bit of guidance and help, it's easy for them to actually realise what they can achieve. It's not that difficult with a little bit of guidance.
I suppose in a way you must empower yourself when you see these people actually publishing their books because of what they've listened to you as well.
Not that aspect, because a lot of people can, publish their own books. And I'm not denigrating that, whatever. But if they actually have a good message and they focus on how they can promote it, when they get the results, even if it's from local media, I'm so thrilled. I gave talks in California in February, and the president of one of the writers' group at which I gave a talk messaged me and said, one of our writers has just generated some local coverage for himself in the paper. And I said, well, send it to me so I can see. All that helps. It's about building your online, your awareness, building your fan base, not just online. And, it's relatively easy to do. And I think because we have the internet now, a lot of people can be empowered, and it's no different from the musicians in the late 80s and 90s when digital downloads started to happen. You had kids in their bedrooms writing music, doing it for themselves. Independent writers can also have that access as well. It just depends on how you go about it.
You've helped promote quite interesting people, haven't you? I see Aretha Franklin and Leslie Garrett. And...
I launched Leslie Garrett, 6 years, 6 #1 albums with her. It was a fantastic time. I'm very lucky. I love what I do. I love working with talented people. I don't consider myself to be that talented, which is why working behind the scenes and promoting somebody and watching their success is quite enjoyable.
It's empowering people.
It is empowering them, and hopefully that they will appreciate what they've gone through. In order to achieve that success. So yes, it's a bit of empowerment, but also I derive a lot of pleasure from helping other people succeed.
Well, so what can people expect from tonight's talk in the library?
Well, tonight I will focus on showing them how to do research, how to appreciate their target audience, how to reach their target audience by what media. Because the youngsters of today don't tend to read traditional newspapers, and I'm old school. I like holding my newspaper and reading it. So the youngsters tend to go online. So if you're writing children's books, who's your target audience there? Not the kids. It's the parents and the grandparents, isn't it? And a lot of people don't seem to appreciate that. So it's actually saying to them, think about this. Let's be considerate and think about the target audience, but it's also about focusing on key message. My message is I'm on a mission to help empower independent writers, and I think that's quite clear. A lot of people struggle to define their own message, and I show them how they can achieve that.
Go on, Liz.
I was just wondering what originally enthused you to go down this line? Because like you said...
That's a long story. Well, I decided to go to university at the age of 48 for the very first time. And also with clients who are writers and meeting independent writers, I think the seed has been planted for quite some time, but it wasn't until I was actually invited by chance to give a talk at Love is Murder in Chicago in about 2015 that made me actually think, you know what, there's a market here. But it's not just about independent writers, because the machinery is exactly the same. I also help empower SMEs. So people like mumpreneurs, people who have their own businesses, I show them exactly the same about the target message, reaching your target audience. And a lot of people don't have the budget to employ people to do it. And I prove to them what is achievable for very little spend. And I ban the word advertising in my talks. And I mean no offence, because you're a production company that relies on advertising. But it's all about key message and thinking about your target audience.
Do you find, kind of in the era at the moment, there's a lot of people that are kind of umming and ahhing and going, oh, I've got this great idea, but it'll never come to tuition, so there's no point me going to the talk.
Yes, and I say, well, what's your message? If you have invested all that time to researching and writing the book, a book's about 100,000 words, it's an awful lot of time spent on writing it, and you've got a message, why do you want to put it in a drawer? If that message is important, you don't know whose life you could be changing.
Yeah, that's so true.
That's amazing, yeah.
I find this very interesting because for many years I've been a careers advisor, and in some ways we sort of work together as the same.
Absolutely. When I worked for the BBC, many years ago, I worked in BBC appointments, and that was like the careers office for the BBC, and it was a fantastic job. I absolutely loved it.
Yes.
And I think I've always had an aspect of the careers advice in me, so I can sympathise with what you've done, as a careers advisor. Yes, it is. It's about saying, OK, your career is as an author, you can achieve. Here's my advice.
So what's the first step then? What's the first thing?
The first step is about the research. It's about researching your target audience, defining your target audience. As I said, if you're writing a children's book, you think it's a child, that is your target audience, but no, it's who's paying for the books. So it could be teachers and schools. Be very clever in how you think about it. And I also ask people who write children's books, well, which online platform do you think might be interested in reviewing your book? Blank stares. There's Mumsnet. There's NetMums. Oh.
Yeah.
Yes.
Sometimes the obvious isn't always so.
So do you write yourself?
I have written 2 books, yes, but nothing's happened with them yet. I'm proofreading one at the moment. So yes, my 2016 was all about giving back and helping to empower others, because I was writing a book myself.
Oh.
Yes.
And are your books about empowerment, or are they...
No. Well, to an extent, but nothing's happened with it at the moment, and I don't want to tempt fate, so we'll leave that bit there.
Wish you well with that.
Thank you so much.
I guess the one question people might be asking at home now is, how much does it cost for someone to do that?
To publish?
Well, yeah.
Do you know what? It's actually quite extraordinary, because a lady I met last week said she was charged about £5,000 to self-publish. There is an awful lot of money to be made in it, but it depends on, where you go. And because I have done some self-publishing myself, and I used a company that was quite inexpensive but very transparent, I will recommend them. And they, this particular lady looked at me and said, wow, I really wish I hadn't spent all that much money. And I said, well, you've done it. It's an achievement. Move forward from that. Help empower yourself by now focusing on promoting it, not just here, because her message is universal. She's got all the other English-speaking territories that she can reach as well. And that light bulb moment went on for her.
And if
social media comes into it as well.
Absolutely. We can empower ourselves. I keep saying we live in a DIY era because of the internet. So why don't we just embrace it?
And if somebody's saying that they'd like to write, but they wonder what is a popular theme, do you have any advice there?
Yes, it's what's inside. What is inside you that is, absolutely bursting to get out?
I guess is your message more do what you love rather than trying to do something
always
to be
find
successful?
Your passion as a careers advisor. Always find your passion. What's that old adage? If you find something that you love, you'll never work a day in your life.
That's true.
Yep, I've absolutely found that.
I emphasise the word enjoy.
Yes.
You're happy doing something.
Yes,
you continue doing it.
You spend 8 hours a day in your job, so you have to enjoy it. So find what you are most passionate about. Write what you know, and if you can't, do the research.
And it's show when you work as well, then, isn't it, to be passionate?
In the final moments, what time and where tonight?
It's at Swansea Central Library at 5:45 for an hour and a half. And it's free.
Awesome.
Yes.
Thank you for joining us. And thank you to all our guests today and to all our viewers for watching us, especially those that have tuned in for our Talking Pictures afternoon matinee coming up next on BayTV.
And today, it's the 1953 drama film, 3 Steps to the Gallows.
I'm excited for it. We'll see you tomorrow.
See you then.